welcome back to yet another video on the C3 Corvette barn find. Today's video we're gonna be doing a lot of stuff to the car, so stay tuned. I hope you guys are liking those little intros. I'm trying to get better at each time. Remember, I'm new at this, so I'm still trying to learn how to edit properly and get the right shots and whatnot. I actually got some new tools I'm using today to kind of keep the shakiness down. So I really appreciate all the helpful comments you guys have been giving me. Awesome pointers that I've got from all of you guys. So I really appreciate you guys liking the videos. It really does help me out. In the last video we talked about working on the motor, but since we're waiting on a lot of parts to come in, we decided to work on the brakes instead and rebuild those, because without brakes, I mean, you can't stop this monster of a machine, or so we think it's going to be. So yeah, we're going to remove all 4 calipers from the car, and in order to get to the last caliper, the passenger side caliper, we have to remove that nasty wire wheel that we've been trying to take off. So stay tuned for that too. On that note, guys, thank you for sticking with us and for subscribing and liking and sharing. I really appreciate it. It's really helping us out, and I see a positive increase of what's going on here. Let's get right into the video. Alrighty guys, the first step of attack to getting these brakes off the Corvette is, of course, to take all the wheels off the car. And luckily the 20-year-old frozen lug nuts were not too bad to get off, and I was able to get them off the breaker bar, so woohoo! So you can see my dad and I are kind of mapping out the game plan of what we're going to do, and checking all the parts out, because we didn't even get to look in the inner fender well yet. So the biggest obstacle I had to overcome removing the brakes off the car was having to snap these bolts loose, because they are frozen as can be. Like, I tried so hard to remove them with just one wrench. I had to double them up and put another wrench on top of another wrench in order for me to get enough leverage in there, because there wasn't enough room for a socket driver to get in there as well. So just, some MacGyver stuff going on, and you gotta stop and be a goof for a little bit, because getting mad and too serious is just drag you on, and trust me, that could discourage you during a project. So I'm gonna let loose. So I actually had to remove the sway bar assembly in order for me to get the rest of the bolt all the way out of the rear caliper. So there was some other tricky stuff on taking it off, but wasn't too bad. Alrighty guys, now that we got that side off, it's time to get the passenger side. Go ahead and spray the trusty penetrating fluid on there. Blast through those rusty nuts. That's what she said.
Hey, nice.
Let's make sure to get on the back over here too. Reaching back here. On there. So folks, this is why you spray a PD blaster in there, because I don't know if you can see how fine those threads are, but they're pretty fine. Not the fine you kind of like, so they can get rusted pretty easy, so be careful for that. We should be able to take the caliper off now that I got the brake line off and the 2 bolts out. There we go. That's what you want to see. I think these are just casting defects. I don't think those are actual holes that blew through here, because that would be kind of effed, but we're going to go ahead and do the front. Alrighty guys, now that we got the rear calipers off, let's go ahead and take off the fronts. As you can see, these are very dirty, so we're going to go ahead and vacuum these up right now and get them cleaned up so we can start working on them. Here we go. Alrighty guys, now that we got this all cleaned up, let's go ahead and rip her off there. We're going to have bigger bolts on this side, right? Nope, same thing. That's pretty cool. So we got 2 5/8 bolts on either side. Before we do anything else, let's go ahead and use that trusty penetrating fluid. Get all that rust out. Let that sit while we're looking for tools. That wasn't bad at all. Alrighty guys, now that we got those 2 bolts off there holding the caliper on the rotor, let's go ahead and remove that brake line. There we go. Front caliper out of there. Pistons are huge. Now we got those out of the way. I wanted to mention some cool features about these rotors. So, I don't know if you guys can see on that camera, but I'm sure you guys can see on the GoPro. There's these little characters that are printed on the rotor, and it tells you the minimum and maximum thickness of the rotor. And I thought that was really cool because being a guy who works on cars, having that kind of increments right there, I mean even to the 1,000, is just really cool to see because at least you get to check it with your calipers and be a nerd and whatever, and be able to figure out whether these are good or not good performance-wise. So I think that's pretty neat, and I think that's just another thing that makes this car a little bit ahead of its time. Guys, it's time to take this spindle off. It's been on this car for far too long, and I gotta get this wheel off in order for me to rebuild this caliper, so I'm freaking out. I'm using all the force I can to take this thing off, and all the might, and you know what? It's coming off today. No matter what happens, we're getting it off in this video. I don't care what it takes. We're gonna put all the heat we can in it. I want to try my best in removing the spindle without cutting anything, because these are important parts, man. You gotta save the parts, you know. This is our pry bar contraption, and as you can tell, it just wasn't working for us. So we had to improvise. So today, your birthday. Closer. Banged up this guy pretty good, huh?
Oh yeah.
Guy's being difficult, huh?
Oh yeah. He's being real difficult.
Wait a minute.
You know what happens if things don't listen?
Yeah.
What?
Bury it.
You gotta get rid of it. And when you do, don't let anybody find it.
Okay, I understand.
I hear things.
I heard things.
Okay,
I heard some things. I heard things.
What?
Alright, I understand. You got the thing?
I got the thing. You got the other thing?
I got the thing.
Bury it.
Make it like nobody's seen this thing before. Forget about it. What thing? I don't know what thing you're talking about. Alright, enough of that thing. Let's get this wheel off because I want to see what it looks like in here. And I don't know if you guys are itching to see it, but look at all the metal we removed right here. Zoom in right there. Look at that, it's just like mud. All that welded onto the wheel. Woo, woo, woo. That is dirty. Alright, so I'll show you guys why this thing was such a pain to get off in the first place. So if you guys take a look at the threads here on the spindle, you'll see that they're very close together and they're very fine. And this allowed the spindle to get rusted on there very easily because it was very close in thickness. You can actually see the rust compound that's on this side. It's like a paste. It was just enough to make it so where it'd be really difficult to get off, but thanks to the previous owner, we came back and asked him for some suggestions on how to get this thing off, and he actually suggested that we use a lead hammer, and we actually had one in the shop that we forgot about it, and we found it, and we used it to take it off, and if we didn't have that tip, we wouldn't be getting the spindle off today, so thanks to the previous owner and giving us a tip how to take this off, because without that tip, we'd not have this thing off today. Before I take off the caliper, I'm going to go ahead and soak these nuts in some penetrating fluid.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're going to let that soak while we go ahead and clean this up in here and get this guy off. Alrighty guys, now that we got it all clean in here, let's go ahead and snap these bolts off. Hopefully we don't literally snap them off the spindle because that would suck. But we're going to go ahead and put these screwdrivers in between the fins here on the disc. just so that it uses the pin here for leverage when I try to move this. It doesn't, you know, I'm gonna try really hard not to bend this pin. I'm just gonna go softly with it. Now my guess is that this bearing's toast from smacking it with the hammer, so it's not moving around in other directions, but probably gonna have to replace that down the line. Now that we got the spindle off, it's time to take the caliper off. Before we get to the 2 bolts that are fastening the caliper onto the spindle, we have to take off the brake line first, just because it's kind of crusty and rusty. Oh, fudge monkeys. So just to clarify, the reason why I couldn't take that off normally is because the joint here that's supposed to just let this thing free spin rusted on there. So unfortunately I won't be able to spin, so that's why I had to spin it around like a circus game for a little bit. But we got the front brake caliper off, so now we're good to go there, and it's time to rebuild them. Alrighty guys, that's all we have time for. Thank you again for sticking around. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know. I really want to take your guys' input, and I want to make this content best for you guys, because at the end of the day, I'm making this for you guys to enjoy and for me to look back at, and I just want to make sure I'm doing a good job at it. So make sure to check out the other videos in the series. I got some other videos on the channel too you guys can check out, and make sure to check out the Instagram and TikTok, guys. Thank you again. Take care.